Previously on Apescape. And now back to the present. And now back to the crying. And now back to the carnage. And now back to the carnage. And now back to the crafting. And now back to the sorcery.
And now back to Slimy.
And now back to the rolling. And now back to Joe. And now back to the escape. And now back to the purifying. And now back to the academy. And now back to Eden. And now back to the machine. And now back to unlocking a whole bunch of doors. And now back to the Nonary game. And now back to the Greenbrier residence. And now back to yelling at people.
And now back to Biddlebin.
And now back to I don't fucking know. And now back to being dead.
And now back to chucking gophers.
And now back to the jungle.
And now back to Japanese high school.
And now back to the survivors. And now back to death.
And now back to boobs. And now back to the island.
And now back to
kicking monkey ass.
And now back to pointing at people.
And now back to being emo.
And now back to fighting for justice. And now back to shit.
And now back to
staring at people.
And now back to the sausage fest. And now back to fucking up history. And now back to killing everything.
Now back to the despair.
And now back to peeing my pants. And now back to sparing everything. And now back to Edgeworth noises. And now back to your childhood. And now back to being confused. And now back to the 90s. Now back to sticking my foot in things. And now back to heart light dark heart Bart dart. Now back to screeching at people. And now back to getting my mind fucked. Now back to eating more of that fucking ice cream.
And now back to the survival.
And now back to wagging my little finger.
And now back to more of my Roxas fanfictions.
And now back to crybaby bunting. And now back to more Nintendogs. And now back to more booty butt cheeks. And now back to sticking it to the man.
And now back to Yoko Taro's crazy brain.
And now back to listening to people.
So stay mosugo madote. Fumitsubushi no menise no saya.
Now back to a new killing game. And now back to saving Ooh, what's that over there? And now back to channeling people. And now back to holy shit, Roland's got a gun!